Hi there, this is Dr. John Bergsma from the St. Paul Center for Biblical Theology and Franciscan University of Steubenville, coming to you on this Wednesday of the 13th week of Ordinary Time. This is not an unlucky week, even though it's the 13th. There are no unlucky weeks in all of Ordinary Time. That's in canon law. Actually, it isn't, but never mind. Anyway, so this is a lucky week. Actually, we don't believe in luck. We believe in providence. It's a providential week. Every week of Ordinary Time is providential, especially this one. Well, I don't know if especially, but they all are. So anyway, we're here on Wednesday, and I want to remind you, don't forget to subscribe to these videos and hit that notification bell so you get alerted when we have fantastic new content coming out that you can enjoy. And we want to look at our readings for Mass today, and our first reading is an important one from Genesis 21. We're reading here in our first reading through the Old Testament, and we are encountering the narrative of Abraham, and we've come to a pivotal point in Genesis 21 where we have Ishmael, and we have to figure out what to do with him and for him. Now, you will remember, Ishmael was the result of Abraham and Sarah not having sufficient faith in God that God would bless their marriage with a son, and so they used a little bit of ancient artificial reproductive technology, and they pulled in this surrogate mother, Hagar, who was Sarah's lady's maid, and Abraham took her as a secondary wife, Hagar as a secondary wife, and begat a son by her, who was then named Ishmael. But this was not the heir of the covenant that God intended. God had always intended to bless Abraham and Sarah with their own son, who would be the heir of the covenant. And so Ishmael cannot share in the covenant. In this passage, Sarah unwittingly serves God's providential purposes. She gets mad and demands that Ishmael be expelled from the clan. And Abraham consents to that only because God assures him that Ishmael will be cared for and blessed. And so Abraham sends away Hagar and Ishmael, and at first things look very dire for them, and Hagar is worried that she and her child are going to die. But God sends his angel to Hagar and Ishmael and says, "Do not worry, God is going to provide for you and for your son, and he is going to become a great nation." So in this passage, we find that God has an abundance of blessings, and God cannot be outdone in generosity. And even for those that are not in the direct line of the covenant, like Ishmael, God has a generous and beneficent will toward him and toward his mother Hagar, and will find a way to bless them as well. So God is a blessing for all of us, and we recall that Ishmael was the father of the Arab tribes, and that in the course of salvation history, the Arab tribes were eventually blessed by the presence of the gospel, and many of the Arabic peoples converted, and many ancient churches of the Near East are originally of Arabic ethnicity, so Palestinian Christians and Syriac Christians, of which there are several rites, and Chaldean Christians, and others as well, have their ethnic roots in the Arab tribes, and ultimately they are the descendants of Ishmael, and so they have now come into the gospel. And so we have these beautiful Arabic forms of Christianity that are a testament to God's faithfulness to the descendants of Ishmael. And then in our gospel reading, we have the account of where Jesus visits a Gentile region, the territory of the Gadarenes, it's described as in Matthew 8. And there is a couple of demoniacs there, and from them Jesus casts out these demons, and at the request of the demoniacs, he sends the demons into this swine, this herd of swine, which is pigs, okay, pig herd. And the herd of pigs rushes down the hill and drowns itself in the sea. And the swine herds go back to town and report what happened, and everyone's scared, and they beg Jesus to leave. I love this passage. I think this is endlessly instructive to us because it shows us people who have the blessing of Jesus coming to them. Don't you think that any town where Jesus would visit would be enthusiastic about Jesus being there? And if Jesus showed up to Steubenville, don't you think that the Steubenvillians, of which I am one, would go out and celebrate and say, "Hey, Jesus, thank you for coming to our town"? Actually, not. Not everybody received Jesus well. And this town doesn't like Jesus, even though he's the Son of God, come to bring the mercy and forgiveness of God. Why don't they like him? Well, because he threatens their livelihood. Their livelihood was bound up with these pigs. And see, pigs are unclean animals, and it was not licit for Jews to raise pigs or to have contact with pigs or to eat pigs. So pigs are a sign, in the Jewish culture, they are a sign of sin. They are a sign of uncleanness. So the people of this town, their livelihood and their profit was tied up with this unclean pig trade. And here comes Jesus to clean things up, and their money is threatened, and so they don't want Jesus around. And so this many things we could talk about here, but let's just focus on this thought. How does Jesus challenge my profits? Are there ways that I am living comfortably? Are there ways that I am making money? Are there ways that I am seeking my own pleasure, my own profits, that are tied up with something that's shady, something that's sketchy, something that is unclean? And then Jesus is a challenge to me, because when Jesus comes in to clean up my life, I'm like, oh, the cleanliness of Jesus may impinge upon my pleasures or my profits and cause me to have to change my lifestyle in some way that's inconvenient for me, or that would mean me reorganizing whole aspects of my life. I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I'm open to that. I don't know if I'm open to surrendering all the areas of my life to Jesus. So do I really want Jesus around? Maybe that's something that we need to struggle with today. Maybe that's something that we need to struggle with in an examination of conscience. How am I resisting Jesus' presence in my life today because he threatens things that I'm comfortable with that are bound up with something that might be unclean? All right, some challenge from the gospel today. This has been Dr. John Bergsma from the St. Paul Center for Biblical Theology and Franciscan University of Steubenville, wishing you a happy, but especially a holy Wednesday of the providential 13th week of Ordinary Time.